Welcome to On The Recyard, Women's Prison Podcast, where we are live on the Recyard every Wednesday night. Hey, everybody. It is Wednesday night, and we are On The Recyard, Women's Prison Podcast. I'm Marci Marie.
I'm Toonchi.
Toonchi, we're sharing the show tonight.
We are. We've got a special guest tonight. I'm super excited. I was here on time.
Too. Yeah, you were on time. And I feel like you were showing out because we have company. Because normally you leave me sweating. You want to hop on 2 seconds before 7 p.m. But our friend Marie is here, and you're here several minutes early. I need an explanation.
Because Marie's here.
Why did I even ask? We see you guys in the chat. Listen, we're sharing the stage with Marie today, and so I want to hop her right on and just get her involved. You want to tell us how you know Marie?
Yeah, so we did, and I'll never call it the Patrick O'Daniel, O'Daniel, or whatever it's called. I'm not ever going to do O'Donnell. O'Daniel, potato. It's not going to happen. It's Mountain View. And so I knew Marie at Mountain View, and she's very good friends with, she used to be my ex-girlfriend, but that's another story. But one of my closest friends, Steph, and then Marie became the beautician. And so she often cut my hair, and I missed her. When she was my beautician, she kept me very not edged up, because y'all know that was against the rules. I'd have to go back to the dorm to do that. But I loved going to the beauty shop with her. I know, Lane Murray, you didn't have a beauty shop experience, but we would sit in there and talk and gossip and read magazines and do our little coffee when we had the good lieutenant, and it just felt like a piece of the world when we were able to be together like that. So I adore her.
I'm going to stop you right now. This is a very long introduction, and
honey, you got me. Hey, can I share with everybody my happy memories?
Well, can we get her on? Let's get her on.
Okay.
Marie, hello.
Hey guys, thank you guys for having me, for inviting me again, and it's always like really excited, yet a little jittery to be here with you guys, but I'm glad. How you guys been?
Marie, we're good. I'm so grateful that you agreed to come on the show and actually join shows, because you have your own show, LifeInHaiti with Marie, and you've got a really good thing going on over there. And so I definitely want to put your handle up and make sure that our community knows about you and the good things that you're doing over there. But yeah, we're just grateful. I feel like it's a combined show on the Recyard tonight.
It definitely is. And for my LifeInHaiti people who are watching, I'm going to ask that you please subscribe to this channel. Show these ladies some love, because we all come from the same background. Before we continue, because I'm kind of used to being the host, so you might have to push me off. I want to tell you guys that I admire you all so much. When I have the time and I'm like flowing through Facebook, I don't think you have a page that I don't follow. Why? Because following you guys reminds me that God is almighty and all powerful, because I always envision in my mind that I would be into prison ministry, that upon release that I will go back and minister to the ladies and to let them know that they were not forgotten. Anyways, I was making my own plans, but while we were incarcerated, he had already set in place who he was going to put where. So I want you guys to know, I admire you all. And I love seeing that what we've been through, number one, we don't look like it, and we are using it to do great and positive work. So I push you guys up all the time.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that. And I love when all of us that have done time together, that, we all kind of got out around the same time a little bit. So just to see where we were compared to 4 or 5 years ago, when things seemed really like, I remember you and I talking when you had just gotten out, and was such a hard time for all of us. So really excited to see where we are now. And yeah, and you knew Marcy through your time too? Did
We
y'all?
were on the same unit for a short
I
time.
know Marcy in passing. I've been in medical with Marcy several times,
Oh boy.
but never had a chance to. Marcy's like the happy type, but we never like had a chance to interact like you and I did, Toon. I was sharing today how I'm gonna be on the show with Toon. Toon, we've been guys, no matter what, we've walked similar grounds, and we have been in places with each other at our lowest time. And that's just a true blessing. And it's a pleasure to be here once again.
Yeah.
I
Well,
hope I
go
hope
ahead.
that you never saw me act out, Marie. That's what when you said you
She
saw
did.
me at
She
medical, I was
did.
trying to lots of scenarios were
Mhm.
playing in my head of things that have gone down at medical.
You were
You
probably
know,
boxing and acting out.
I'm gonna tell you something. My audience here, they know like the really good Marie, but say that Jennifer haven't seen me act out. That's a lie. I think we have all seen each other upset. We've all seen each other act out at some point. Yeah, we have all been there, and also seen us when we decided to do the right thing. But Jennifer has always been the type that did the right thing anyway. So I always wonder, like, why is Jennifer in trouble? Jennifer did. We had moments, Marcy. Jennifer didn't. She really didn't.
Jennifer had everybody else doing her dirty work, Marie. That's why she didn't get in trouble.
No, let me tell you something. I was a sweet girl, and I was a good girlfriend and a good librarian, and I was sweet and calm, and nobody saw it. Nobody saw it. But Marie, I would love if you, for those who are watching on the Recyard who may not know your journey to Haiti, and how that happened. How did you get from being incarcerated in Gatesville, Texas, to where you are now? And I would love if you shared with our listeners, how did that happen? What did that journey look like?
Wow. Okay. So, for those that may not have met me, let's say I was born in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, and my parents migrated back to the United States with me as a child at a very early age, and early 90s. So when we made it to the United States, I was the only child. A few years later, I ended up having a little sister to come in, as well as three little brothers. But I am years older than my siblings, so I always found myself hanging out with friends. My early childhood years, I would like to write a book, so I'm not going to share, but I have dealt with my own little sadness growing up. I grew up without my mother. This was way before I left Haiti. My biological mother was never active in my life. And I think I always had that longing and that emptiness as we traveled to the United States with my mother who raised me. My mother who raised me was a great woman. I don't take that away. But knowing that she wasn't my mother, I always had that emptiness inside of me some way, somehow. We get to Houston. I'm hanging out with friends. I end up leaving the house at a young age. I have my own place. I'm working. Forwarded to 2006. On that day, I had a friend. I'm gonna name her Juju. She had gotten incarcerated and did 2 years. She had been home 18 days, and I had not had the chance to see her or spend time with her. So she was calling me, telling me she wanted to see me, wanted to spend time with me. And I took a Friday off. That way I would have a 3-day weekend. When I took this day off, early that morning, I don't know if I've shared it in details in my life, but I will share it. Early that morning was a really strange morning. That same morning when I called off work to spend time with Juju, let's just say KK also called and asked me, hey, I hear you off work today. Can you please give me a ride to Third Ward? And I said, cool, because we were all childhood friends. So I ended up going to get Juju first because Juju was on the way. Then we turned and we head all the way out. When I pick up Juju, when I get to her house, Juju, back then we had the cordless phones. You guys remember? So I'm in the car and Juju's like telling me, come here, because she can't walk all the way to the car. The phone will cut off. I get out and I get the phone. When I get the phone, let's just say it's another Riri on the phone. Riri proceeds to tell me, have I spoke with KK? And I told her, yes, I have. Why? She said, I don't want you to deal with her because she's planning on running my cousin in. And I'm like, well, what's that have to do with me? I don't know anything about you guys. Make a long story short, we were all childhood friends. Keep in mind, Kiki had been gone, and I did not know like what they had going on, and I always worked a lot. So come to find out, a guy that KK had been with for a minute is the cousin to Riri. So she has spoke to this guy, and the guy told her that, hey, KK is planning on running me into my parole officer, saying that I make fake money, right? I don't know any of this. But KK did ask me for a ride, and she asked me to go to Third Ward. I have yet to even verify where she's actually going. So make a long story short, I tell Juju after I get off the phone with Riri, come on, let's go. She gets dressed and we leave. We go to pick up KK. As we're picking, when we get to KK house, Juju is in the front seat. KK goes to open the front door, and I'm sharing this because these are all small details so you can kind of have an understanding. When KK gets to the door, she goes to open the front passenger door. Juju snatches the door closed. So she now sees somebody's in the front and she gets in the back. When she opens the back door, she instantly says, Marie, you full of shit. This is the exact word she used back then. And I'm like, what are you talking? Before I could answer, Juju answers. And like, you know, like, what you mean? Make a long story short, they ended up bumping heads and having words. On the way going out to the front gate, going out the gate, I ended up having to stop by somebody else's house in the same apartments. By the time I come out, they're both out the car. And before I know it, they are having a physical fight. And then it's people out, like I'm trying to break them apart. Juju, she snatches KK purse. In her purse, I think she had a taser. Whatever she had, I was already like really sad at the fact that they were fighting each other because I didn't know that they were enemies. We all grew up together. What Juju took, literally, I made her return it back because if you're familiar with Houston, I believe this was Fondren Court, which is right on the side of the road. And her apartment was on the side of the road. So I made her throw her purse. and all of KK stuff back. Well, unbeknownst to me that day when we go on by our business, I shared this because this was a major reason how we ended up incarcerated, and there's not to make any excuses. As we go on about our day, then Kiki was so stuck on we have to hit a lick. We have to hit a lick. So as I share this story, guys, keep in mind this is not near. I'm not at that address if you go looking for me today. This is a thing of the past, and it's sad, but you have to sometimes accept the things that you've done wrong in order to grow from them. She kept saying that she wanted to hit a lick. She wanted to come up. You know how it is sometimes when your friends get out of prison and they don't have no direction. They just trying to come up, yada, yada, yada. So she ended up saying, we're going to like rob this Hispanic guy. She's going to pretend like she's going to have sex with him, but she's really not going to have sex with him, and we're going to rob him. Make a long story short, we ended up doing that. And in the process of doing that, I remember having him get out the car and making him like get naked on the side of the car because it's on Bel Air and it's dark on the side of these apartments. And she's like telling him, get naked, right? And I'm just like, okay, get naked. But really, I'm really out of body, guys, because anybody that know me, like as I share my story, all my friends on Facebook, everybody know I had never done a thing like that in my life. I used to reprimand even my kid's dad for even being friends with people that did these type of things. So as this was taking place, I realized like in the process, what the hell are you doing, Marie? So as we're walking away, she tells me, she's like, take his keys. Well, this is, it's a really, anyways. So she says, take his keys. And when I tell him, like, give me your keys, guys, he gave me, it was a round key ring with all of these keys in it. And when he handed me the keys, I felt so bad. Because it made me realize that that's like, okay, somebody doing that to my father, you can take his money, but don't take away his livelihood. Because my dad, back then, where he worked at, he kept a key ring full of keys because he was in charge of so many different rooms. So me being me, thinking, if somebody did this to my dad or whatever, I would be really mad. So I said, we had done enough to him. I gave him back his keys. We did not hurt him. We never shot at him, none of that. Never scratched him, none of that. It's still no excuse what we did. We ended up leaving. Guys, my case that I did so many years for, which is exactly that, she pretended that she was going to have sex with him, but she wasn't. And then we robbed him, right? Minutes later, I'm driving. And as I'm driving away, guys, I'm like tripping out. Like, can't believe we just did that. It's dark. And when you just, for those that's done something like that or been around something like that, it's like the lights, everything, you could be really confused, because you got so much going through your mind and in the process of trying to get away. Soon as we got to the stop sign, boom, the police pulled us over that was on the side of the road. He said that I didn't stop at a stop sign, which I swore I did, but hey, we pulled over. When I pulled over, it was literally walking distance from where we just committed the crime. And keep in mind, I gave him his keys. So when he heard the police pull us over, he hurried up while we're pulled over, guys, he's behind us, a normal traffic stop because it's two girls. He's not nothing to be threatened about. And then a guy comes swerving in behind, and the guy is screaming. And by then, you see the officer pull out his gun and telling them, hey, like, stay back. And he's telling them that we just robbed him. And right then and there, the officer's like, well, let me figure out what's going on. He came and asked for my name and yada, yada, yada. I gave him a fake name. My friend gave him a fake name. And he said, this guy is saying that you guys just robbed him. But in the process, he's trying to tell me, he was trying to tell us that this car was wanted for something else. Well, us having a gun and knowing what we just did, my friend's like, don't stay, go, 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 go. So we ended up going on a high-speed chase with the police. This day, guys, is a day that was so weird. I remember us driving and we were trying to go home, and we went totally opposite from home. We ended up way like on the north side of Haiti, like heading towards the north side of Houston. And make a long story short, we ended up getting stopped and going to jail. For that decision, I was charged with aggravated robbery with a deadly weapon and invading arrest by a motor vehicle. It was my first felony offense, yada, yada, yada.
And how much time did they give you, Marie, for that? How much time did they sentence you to?
To a 15-year sentence to the state of Texas for that. Can you, and I take full responsibility. Like, I remember, even in prison, I would always joke, like, I am guilty, Like, I'm not here because they accused me, But when I look back on the years, I think I spent 22nd birthday all the way up to the last birthday I spent free was 36. What's sad is I had bunkies and people that lived in a dorm with me that committed worse crimes and that had lesser time, or that was sentenced to bigger time and they did lesser time. I did 13 years on my sentence, to where when I made parole, that I was lost in the system. I was one. I was granted an FI2 in 2018 for January 2019. So, FI2 is usually everybody is gone by the 5th, based on, the day that it falls on. It was the 10th, I was still there. It was the 15th, I was still there. So by then I'm calling home and I'm telling my sister, everyone with the FI2 are gone. And you sit 6 months to even walk out. By the time she ends up contacting an attorney because of my parole, somehow it coincided that when the attorney contacted Huntsville, that's when they realized, what is this girl still doing here? She was supposed to be released. And that's how I ended up being released, I think, the 2nd or 3rd of February out of the state of Texas in 2019. And from there, I was transferred to immigration immediately. When I received my answer, immigration came and visited me at Murray. I'm not really familiar with Murray, but somewhere up front, kind of like line control, they have a little office where They contact you, they ask you all of this detailed information about you. And when I went there, I answered the questions, yada, yada, yada. I kind of was hopeful, but then I was also realistic at the fact that I wasn't born in the United States. And there I knew for a fact that I can and possibly face deportation. I ended up, like I say, from Murray, being transferred. On the day I was released, I was picked up by immigration, and immigration transferred me to Conroe, back to Texas. And from
I wanna get into all that, the immigration process and what the conditions were like, because 'cause we're really curious about that part of your incarceration. But I also just wanted to kind of go back a little bit because you talked a lot about the way that your crime kind of came into place. I think that kind of scenario that you were with your friends, with people that you kind of trusted, and you were just kind of going with the flow. And I think that a lot of, especially young people, do
yeah.
that. That's an easy path to get on, and before you know it, you're kind of in the middle of this huge situation that you don't know how to get out of.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's what happens, and that's what inspired me to share my story, because a lot of people associate us with that's been to prison as hardcore criminals or people that just lived a destructive life and all you did was criminal activities, which is so untrue. The day I caught my case was the day I called off work and ended up being with a friend. And a lot of the times, you have to be mindful because bad company corrupts good character. And in my case, I ended up being punished far worse than the person who it was their idea, it was them with the motive. I ended up, she was sentenced to 8 years. Then she cried and basically said it was all my idea. It was this, it was that. And of course, her family knew more how to navigate the system. Whereas my parents, being Haitians, they never really knew how to navigate the system or where to go or what to do. And here it was, she was just telling her mother things. And whenever it was like time to go to court, here come all of this madness, you know? And my parents are more like standoffish. My dad was more like, when I first went to court, I remember going through the tunnel like dead, Marcy. My first offer was a 50-year sentence to the state of Texas. And Pete told me that I would do 25 years. And I remember my father being out there, and my dad was just basically telling me, like, that literally almost killed, you know. And you need to be mindful of the things that you do. Because it was then that I realized that simple decision can get me. And I mean, I don't know, but God carried me through that tunnel back to wherever I was housed at that time in the county. Because for the life of me, I couldn't imagine living a normal life. So now my faith is being sentenced to 50 years in the state of Texas. And then my parents were more wondering, like, what was I doing? You know, like, what type of lifestyle was I leading? My parents were under the impression that I had killed someone or that I had injured someone. And one of the things that they did to me at the time, they held me without bond. So that day when they wanted to sentence me to 50 years, my dad's like, well, whatever she did, I would like for her to sit at the table and just eat dinner one more time. like why she don't have a bond. My co-defendant was on parole for something very similar that she did with another person whose name was Mary, not Marie. So she had a track record, and she still have a track record to today of doing the same thing with people and manipulating her way out. But back then it was the second time, and I had no bond. So my dad's like, get her a bond. It took 6 months, Marcy, for them to give me $100,000 bond. It was six.
Marie, do you
Mhm.
think that do you feel like your nationality played into that?
See, it's today, Marcy, that I'm understanding certain things about my life and about certain things which has happened to me. And I today looking back, yes, being Haitian played a lot. Being Haitian was a reason why the state of Texas, I also lost my files when I made parole. They didn't even care about me being released properly like everyone else. Like, what are the odds? I was the only one at Murray left with the FI2. Do you think that my files wasn't with everyone else? How did my file end up? But I've gotten over that. And one of the things I say to people, be mindful of the company that you keep. It's easy to get into trouble. And even to today, for us that have made parole, be mindful of the people that you hang around. Be mindful of the decisions in which you make or allow other people to talk you into. And that is why today I'm so tough on myself. It's ridiculous. And I'm mindful big time as far as who I consider a friend. So moving forward to your question, I was transferred to immigration, Conroe. And I mean, it was a drastic difference. I'm it was so different that I felt the many years that the state of Texas alienated us from the rest of the world. Conroe was very advanced as far as the unit. They had kiosks, they had tablets, and then for us that have been incarcerated since 2006, I had never seen a phone, not a touchscreen phone. When we left, we had the little Nokia. I didn't even know how to operate a tablet. I didn't know any of that. And when I got there, even though I was still in prison and in a room full of people, I felt alone. And I remember breaking down there as well because I was being prepared for the world, and I had seen just how out of touch we have been doing time in the state of Texas. Everything was so modernized. The unit was very, very clean in comparison to our unit. Mountain View, of course, we have air conditioning, but the little time I did at Murray air condition is like when you at medical or admin. We don't live, you better put some water on your floor and lay down. You know what I mean? That's there, and put your fan on. But there's air condition 24/7. The grieving process was different, and the level of respect that you got from staff was very different in comparison to the federal unit that I waited on to be sent to Haiti.
They treated you better when you were there in Conroe?
A lot better, Marcy. If I say they didn't, that'll be lying. In the state of Texas, you really don't have a voice, especially us that, let's say for me, in the state of Texas, there's many occasions that I was picked on. There's many occasions that I was accused of things that was not true. And that was one of the reasons why I would have a certain reaction. And even when you grieve the process, you still don't get that justice that you are in need of. There, it was different. Even when it came to a search, there's an order as to how they do a search. In reference to, let's say, Sammy come in, she does a search, and I can guarantee you, but the only thing that's not broke is probably my shorts and t-shirts. But I can tell you what she did do was stepped all over them. And you literally see her footprints all over them. And I have been a victim of this a lot of times in the state of Texas. In Conroe, it was very different. You know, an officer comes, knocks on the door, and tell you it's time for a search. You come out, they do the search properly. When they touch something, it has to be placed right back. And I ended up finding out more because I was blown out back as to how different they were with offenders. And then that's when another young lady said that in the feds that's how they are treated. That an officer is not allowed to come in and do a search and search them any kind of way. They're not allowed to do a search and put things under the bed. Meaning, if they open that lockbox, they need to be able to properly put things back into that lockbox. Rank was more accessible. If there was a problem, it was a lot easier to ask for rank. Whereas in the state of Texas, when we ask for rank, they rank on us. You know, we're laughed at. Like, you're not getting no rank, San Felice. You get what I'm saying? So they do whatever they choose to do whenever they choose to do it. And in the state of Texas, I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of women, it takes longer for them to get it right to start making parole because we encounter a lot of mistreatment by staff. Being a black offender, there's a lot of racism in the state of Texas. And I know you guys know about that. There will be times, and you guys know that most of my friends were white girls, Hispanics. There will be times where an officer would directly pick me. When it be Primavera? When it be Stephanie? When it be someone else? But we also had this code that, you can't snitch. So even if it was Stephanie that did it and they accused me, I walked with it. But they knew intentionally what they were doing and they did it on purpose. Let's say, for example, when we coming in from the kitchen, there are times with certain officers, example, Miss Crow, right? She would nitpick on certain people even more. So the state of Texas, the whole system is really messed up. Because for myself, I did 13 years for a crime when described on paper, like I am the worst person on earth. When in reality, we did not scratch nobody. We were young adults that made a horrible decision, but we never had ill intent. We weren't going to kill anyone. Where you see people come in and actually committed horrible crimes. They actually did hurt someone. How many aggravated assaults with deadly weapons I've saw during my incarceration come in with a 5-year sentence, right, Tom? And then by the time they did that, 2.5, 3 years, they were already back with another sentence the same or bigger from actually hurting somebody out in the world. So
Well,
the
you're
mhm.
certainly hit a big point about sentencing variations. In the state of Texas, it varies so dramatically. There is no set stone. I mean, my crime was punishable, I think 5 to 99 or maybe 10 to 99. I could have gotten 10 years or I could have gotten 99 years. It makes no sense. And
Mhm.
I had a white collar crime, got a 20-year sentence, and of course, I was with people that had done less and got more time, and with people that had done more and got less time, just like you, Marie, for absolute certain. I want to touch a little bit more on some of the racial inequalities that you faced in Texas prisons. For certain, every single um, every single racial injustice that I personally witnessed came from staff. And so I was curious on your thoughts on how you were treated by the incarcerated population, by the ladies. Because in my experience, I felt like we were kind of all in there in the trenches together. But also I realized coming from a white person, I may have just been missing stuff. And so I'm just curious what your take on that is.
I do think from the population, for me, and this is my experience, because I've had it a lot of times, you hear the girl say, "Oh, Marie's not black." I was not black enough for the black girls because I was Haitian, or I was always black when it came to a white girl. But for the most part, we coexist, we live together. You do have the off the wall Olivers that I hate niggers, but for me, I never really took that to heart unless they were intentionally doing things to harm someone that's black. And we've had, of course, being in a woman's prison, looking back, there's so many emotions, right? Can you imagine we have to live with each other and each of us wake up with 14 different personalities a day? Example, Murray, you got 120 of us in the dorm. Come on. So you probably never get the same person. But for the most part, racism didn't come from my peers. I never had issues with, let's say, one of my peers that was a white girl, da 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 da. No, because I've always been attracted. I would tell people, and even some of my black friends, they will have problems with a white girl and just associate it solely because they were a white girl. I am attracted to character, not color. So Toon will tell you, if you were a white girl that I enjoyed your company and I could trust you and you were cool, then I veered towards you. You could be a black girl, and if you were just doing too much, I veered away towards you. So the racism was more towards, I want to say, with staff. There was certain staff that, being a black offender, they showed favoritism. But when it came to us living with each other, I didn't really see much racism from my peers because I never really took people seriously. You do have the oddballs in the dorm, and I've had testimonies, right? I've had it where I've seen white girls with Aaron Brotherhoods and the tattoos. And keep in mind, that's something I was innocent too, guys. I didn't really, I'm Haitian, and racism is not something that I grew up thinking really exists. I don't think before prison I knew about Aaron Brotherhood, white power, all of that. That's not something that I knew about actually until I came into prison. And that's when, you know, we'll be in the shower and someone would say, look at her tattoo. That's white power. Or it'll literally be white power or yada yada. I've seen girls, because racism, one thing we have to keep in mind, it is a taught behavior. None of us is born racist. We grew up in an environment that's racist. We grew up hearing someone belittling another culture. We grew up around people who made derogatory about another. Meaning, if I'm making derogatory comments in reference to whites, blacks, or Hispanics, you're right, then my kids would most likely not respect a white person. So when I had peers that had these tattoos representing white power, yada, 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 no sooner than later, some of these girls, we became friends.
Marie, I want to, that's a great point, right? Because I've thought a lot about that when we were locked up, is that, you know, the girls with the swastikas, like big bold ones on their neck and all this shit. But they often, their girlfriends were black. And like they acted like, and I'm like, I don't understand. And I remember one girl I asked, and she had one on her neck. And she was like, well, that was the gang of guys that I was running with. Like, it was more of like this culture that they lived in outside of this place with men. But when we were all together, it was like, yeah, it's us as women. And like Marcy said, like, well, we have to reflect on that. Well, maybe that was my experience because I'm a white woman. But it felt more like we knew all of our differences. We might bump heads sometimes, but for the most part, girl, it's us against these staff. Like this staff is treating us like garbage because of our color or our sexuality or because of the way we look or whatever. And it's, I don't know. It's like I really appreciate you sharing that, because a lot of times people just don't believe us. They're like, oh, well, that can't be true because maybe men's prisons are so segregated by race, and women's prison wasn't. I mean, like you said, there were women with huge white power, I mean, bold tattoos, and they were like, oh yeah, but that's for the gang of guys that are biker gangs that are run away. And it's like, do you understand what that means? Because they didn't treat women of color weird. It was so bizarre. It was so bizarre.
In the chat, they're talking about, well, we had a question from Randolph asking if there were Muslim women incarcerated, and Jerry Swaim is in the house. Hi, Jerry, welcome. And she did answer that. She worked in the chapel, but we could also talk about if there were disparities religious-wise, and I would say no, I felt like there wasn't. Now, from staff, did I feel like Muslim incarcerated folks got the business? Absolutely, they did. And just like Jerry said, we were all in the fire together.
Yes, one of the reasons why I saw that Muslim women, they were discriminated against, is because, okay, when you are a Muslim, you're not supposed to eat pork. But a lot of the girls, they would go to Talim, they would become Muslim so that they can have the privilege of an outing. That's something I would not do. You know, I'll change my religion just to get the benefits of something, or go Jew, because at that time they allow us to order special things. So some of the officers also zoomed in to the fact that there was some people misusing that privilege that a religion offered. They'll be the first one to eat a pork chop, and you are a Muslim, right? So so when officers see that, now it opens doors for you to be picked at. But overall, whatever your religion is, on every unit I've been to Mountain View, I was at N1 Marlin, I've done time at Hobby, I ended up going to Lane Murray. every unit pretty much gives you that freedom of speech where you are able to choose your religion. Yeah, and racism, if we just go back to that a little bit, it is a taught behavior, but once we have to coexist, just like Toon say, it's us versus the officers. It's not you're not seeing us, of course you have the spats, of course you have the personal side things that's happening, but I've never seen just because someone is racist or that they literally like go around picking at a certain person. No. And women in men prison are very different. You mentioned that, because when I hear how the men do their time, I'm like, the most we do, like I hear men have cell phones. I'm like, oh my God, you could not have had a cell phone on Mountain View. Because the little and behold, Marie be over there on the phone 12 at night. That be right up, girl, the next day. Sammy got 300 forms. But they all have cell phones in men prison. And women, if they did, I didn't know about it. And I never knew anyone. Men prison do drugs.
Marie, it's because couldn't nobody keep nothing to themselves. Girl, be quiet. Like you can't keep, they can't keep quiet about nothing. Because by the time, and really it wasn't even sometimes that people were meaning to tell on each other or run each other in. It's that everybody in the dorm has already talked about it, and some officer done overheard it, or some dumb has told an officer that they thought they were cool with, and now the whole dorm's getting searched. They just can't keep their mouth shut.
Not at all. So when the most part, I think the biggest problems we have in women's prison is contraband. And that's because one of the things too, we always run back and we tell on each other about every little thing. Whereas the men seem to be a lot different. And men do drugs. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, ladies. I've shared this with people and they think that I'm like, look, I've never done drugs during my incarceration. And I never dealt with people. I didn't even of course you have friends that's psych patients, you deal with them from afar. It's Marie. I'm going to be nice to psych patients. They make me laugh, but I'm not taking their psych pills. You know what I mean? And I hear a lot of people say like drugs is a big thing, but I've never been on, maybe because if you are doing these type of things, you attract that crowd, because the people, us being around I remember one time, and this is because these shows is to inspire, guys. You need to be mindful of the people you hang with. I remember one time, Primavera and I, we was working in the kitchen, right? And Primavera is one of my best friends as well. It's Stephanie. Shout outs to them too, that's incarcerated. And while we're back there, Malita is now free. While we're back there, all of a sudden, somebody comes and they have like this stuff that comes from Lane Murray. And it's like this sticky thing. And I'm like, I'm thinking at first it was makeup. Because I'm like, what, brown eyeshadow? Like, you know how much I love makeup. So I'm like, and Primavera's like, no, it's heroin. And I'm like, we're not talking to her ever again. Because if you could offer me drugs in prison, like, not only are you not my friend, but you hate me. Because I'm already at my lowest, destroyed. and you're offering me drugs. So you gotta be mindful of the people that you around, even incarcerated. And for me, women prison, especially where I was, I did not see a lot of drugs. But maybe you guys saw something different. You did most of your time, Marcy, on Murray. How was it there? Was girls on drugs, K2? I don't know anything about that. Never done it. I never actually seen it.
Yeah, I've never saw it the whole time that I was in prison, and Lane Murray is a maximum security unit, and I was not always a good actor in there. So I was G Ford several times, in and out of SEG lots, and I've never had it offered. I never knew of anybody. Now, if it was there, I didn't know about it. I feel like I would, because I was there for such a long time and I kind of knew everybody. We are getting to kind of the end of the show, and so I want to answer some questions in the chat, but also, Toonch, did you have anything you wanted to ask in particular?
Oh, I mean, we could just keep talking about conditions and the way that women, the things that happen to us on the inside. And this will be the first part of, I'm sure, many other times that Marie would like to come
Yes,
and
we can do a second part. Like, I'm always here to show you guys love. Let me give my peoples a quick shout out. Thank you so much, Generation Love, for the $15 super chat. Thank you so much for the continuous love and support of Life in Haiti. One of the things I want to say, guys, is because I follow you guys closely, even though I don't say anything. Yes, how we were treated was bad. But being in Haiti, I've seen that in prison, guys, we really lived luxury. Like here, even the average person don't have access to water, electricity. Like, I'm so appreciative. But one of the things that we don't do enough of is credit the officers that did see the good in us. Because when I think back of during my time, I did have officers that stopped picking with me because they saw that I was trying. I had officers that always picked with me to keep me on the right track. So I'm not sure if maybe this will ever get back in the walls, or someone will write somebody behind, the walls, and tell them about this interview. But one thing, looking back on my incarceration, I learned is that even though an officer is a dick, that could be a road. Let that be a stepping stone to where you're heading in life. Because if some officers were not mean towards me, I probably would have done my whole time, because I would have gotten stuck in my comfort zone. If I didn't have officers that pulled me up, I would have been too comfortable. It wouldn't have been a reason for me to make parole, because I genuinely enjoyed and loved my friends. Because you live there for so many years, you can forget yourself. So even though if an officer was a bad officer, we should thank them too, because today they are the reason why we are where we are at today. Whether if they was good to us, whether they was whatever they were to us, they play a role as to why today I will be a good member of society and live with a level of moral turpitude to not ever get myself back in that situation again. And then you have the officers that see good in you, saying, Felice, straighten up, or yada yada. And I don't forget those officers, like, I know Miss Smith is one of them that I work with in the kitchen. She always saw good in me. She always pushed me up. she always gave me that little push in the background that an officer don't give to an inmate. And it was like in a motherly way that kept me humane, that kept me to know that I had something good about myself. Everything about me wasn't bad. So, yes, we talk about what bad the officers did, but let's also thank them for what they did do was made us a better member of society.
Thank you for that. And you're getting a lot of love in the chat about the wisdom that you're dropping. And I think that people are just soaking that in, and we appreciate that so much. We're at our hour. Toonch, can we go just a little bit and answer the questions in the chat?
Sure.
And we appreciate y'all.
You're asking me in front of Marie, so you see it's like you're being nice to me, like that's regular. But she watches the show and she knows that you do what you want.
She knows the real, and she also did time with you, so she knows the real about you too.
That's right. She's so gracious. So go ahead, let's get some questions.
T is asking if we were locked up together.
Yes.
So
we've been on the same unit. Yes.
Sorry, I had to cough right as I was doing that.
Well, you opened it up for questions and then you took off.
And then I got something in my throat. I thought that maybe when you saw me go on mute, you would pick up the cue. And
we're not going to do this in front of people, right?
Haitian Warrior King is asking, do we have riots in women's prisons?
No, we do not. We may get upset about something.
You never had, but we do. Because keep in mind, I was AGSEC. I was in close custody.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry, girls. What did y'all do down there? What did y'all do down there when y'all were?
I wouldn't say a riot, but it's kind of like we've had it where you see 5 or more fighting. 2 start, then 1 jump in for 1, another jump in for 1. It ended up being 6 people fighting. So in the state of Texas, anywhere where it's 3 or more is really considered a riot, right?
And I've seen a close to one in the chapel. I'm just saying it was during a church service and there was about 15. Now, it wasn't like you see on the movies, and I don't think it was like men's prisons. There was no taking over the dorm or any of that. No. Randolph Adams is asking about tattoos.
Of course, yes, we did tattoos. I don't think they were, nothing like what the men do at all.
I've never had a prison tattoo, guys. During my incarceration, that was things I was very strict about, and my health has always been something I was very strict about. So to some, they might have thought, look.
Meanwhile, I have my wife's name tattooed.
I had,
for some reason, I hate pain, and I would see people getting them, and it's like they're over there crying. I'm like, girl, I'm giving you eyes. If you making all this noise and you end up caught, it ain't because of me. It's because you calling them to come catch you. So I'm like, as much as I saw her crying, I'm not going to let you pick at me,
Right, because we were not making tattoo guns in the women's prisons, y'all. I think a lot of men's prisons are actually making motorized guns. We were poke.
We were.
Yep, it was the dip poke. I have a question. Florence has a question for Marie. Do you have children, Marie?
Yes, I have 2.
Jerry is asking about the tasers. Toon, we did have one of our Linus regional directors contact TDCJ about the officers carrying tasers. Can you update on that very quickly?
Yes. So they are training I believe she said the captains and above to use the tasers, and that they would have some type of body camera as well. Yeah, they're moving away from chemical agents to tasers. They've been using them on some of the men's units, and they are slowly rolling them out to other units, including the women's units. So scary stuff.
It would be a lot worse, especially in women's prison, because women, and this could be a second part, we tend to be a lot more emotional. And when we're emotional, the officer could be like, Sanfelice, be quiet. Sanfelice, be quiet. And I'm like, I'm really mad with Toon, you know? And now all of a sudden, an officer can, and we know we've seen it many a times where they misuse their authority, and the first thing they feel they need to do is tase someone. That can be a bad reaction because that's electricity. You don't know how someone's bodies would take that. A lot of the girls in there had seizures. That was something different too. With women that I really didn't know exist. And some of them have seizures and didn't even know that they had seizures until they got incarcerated. Maybe the stress triggered it. So I don't know about the men if they need something bigger, because men they get bigger and stronger and can, you know, do bad things to staff easier than we can. I don't think that's a good idea for women's prison for them to go through to tasing. I don't think so.
Yeah. It's scary.
Yeah, that's very scary thinking of those that we left back home. I mean, back there at the units, you know, for them to be, no, that, I
Okay,
don't know.
another question we have, and I think I'm gonna say Jeethma, but I might be messing up that name, and I hope I'm not. Is it true they would search women of color more than white women? And I'll say from
Yes.
my observing, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely true.
Yes.
Yes.
And
That's true.
Mhm.
And then I'm gonna say this name just because kudos to you for having such an excellent YouTube name, Italian Stallion, AKA the Gangster Bankster. I love it. And thank you for the super chat. Were there guard dogs that looked like Nuke? Were there guard dogs?
No. The only time we saw the dogs is when they took us out on the fields, and that will be another discussion one day too, is that they would take us out in the fields like old slave days on the plantation with out with a host squad boss, and you're in a line of people and you're out there singing and hitting the ground and doing the with your hoe. They would have the dogs on us then. And so if somebody took off running while you were out on the host squad, the dogs would be after you. But you could hear them. You'd hear them out sometimes, taking them out to practice or look for stuff. You hear those basset hounds, and you're like, oh my God, I've just been transported into a horrible moment in time. That's the only time that we saw dogs.
Quick story. I went to Lane Murray. Now, remind you, my days of host squad was long gone. And I'm in, is it Murray that's F dorm? Or what's the best dorm at Murray? Is it F dorm? I went into F dorm. So I never actually lived in the K dorms or whatever. They put me directly like in F dorm. I am a teacher's aide in education. All of a sudden, what happened, Benjamin? Something happened, and I ended up being crossed out. So today, I don't know for what, but this lady was black, but she was evil. And they put me out there on the host squad with Warren, and I'm telling you, Murray have the worst field squad crew on any unit that I've ever been on. I mean, the worst. Oh, no. That's hobby. Murray, what did I do at Murray? No, Murray was good. What was my job at Murray? Did I work? Lane Murray. What did I do there? That was hobby. That was hobby. I was in P Wing at hobby. And I worked with Elle, Lavera Green. She's Johnson now. She's married. Elle. We were co-workers. And they ended up crossing me out. And they put me out there on the whole squad. And I'm telling you, their whole squad, they would turn you out Guys, I'm scared of snakes, rats. Oof, I thank God that I am free today.
Amen.
And that is why I don't look back. I know where God have brought me from, and I am quick to tell people. You may see my face, but you don't know my story. You don't know where I've been through. People see us, they don't know where we've been, or what we've been through, And before we leave, I want to tell you guys that I'm so proud of you guys. I know you guys are proud of me too. Keep on pushing, keep on making a difference, and know that you have a ton of people that admire the work that you do.
Yes, and we feel the same way, Marie. Thank you again for coming on the show. We appreciate you so much. And with that, we better wrap it up. Final thoughts, Toonch?
I'm just so happy to see you. You look gorgeous. You sound great. I love hearing all the wonderful stories, the good, the bad, the funny, and I love that we still have our community together, even from far away.
Thank
That's
you
what
for liking and sharing and commenting on the live. We appreciate you all so much. You can find Marie Life in Haiti with Marie. You can find us on the Rec Yard across all the platforms. And we will be back here next Wednesday, same time, same place, folks, live 7 p.m. Central Time on the Rec Yard Women's Prison Podcast. For hanging out with us on the Rec Yard Women's Prison Podcast with Marcy